This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 480, recorded on February 18th, 2021. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home, news, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios. Mike, we should be called the Frozen Chosen here in Nebraska. Some of the coldest weather I've seen maybe in a decade, right?
Yeah, it's the coldest I've seen since, and I grew up here. I moved away. I came back, and I'm just so excited. It's supposed to thaw out. I think we're supposed to finally get above freezing for the first time in a few weeks this weekend. I am still, in my backyard is still just fence posts without the fence connecting from when the fence company came and took it down. Then all of a sudden we got smacked with this snow and freeze. And my dog is very excited to have his fence back because he hates being on the chain out there. So I'm ready. I think we're supposed to thaw back out this weekend, and hopefully it's all behind us. But yeah, it has been terribly cold.
Atrocious. It's just atrocious. Our friends down in Texas, we feel for you. I've been hearing from folks all week. Still no power for a lot of folks down there. So if you're listening to the recording of this, feel for you. Jon Maddox is here from Channels. And John, where are you located? And are you frozen, or are you in okay shape at this point?
I'm in Richmond, Virginia, and we are used to a little bit of snow. We didn't have any last year, but we had a bunch of the snow last week. And then we had ice all day today. Like the forecast was 4 inches of ice, and we actually got it. It was, it's pretty gross.
So everybody pretty stays in, right?
Yeah. I mean, when we get snow like that, things just shut down. People pile on some food in the house, and we just wait it out because it'll be 50, and on Saturday it'll be 50 probably. Yeah. So
we are looking forward. I think I saw 35 or 40 in the forecast for later in the weekend, and I was like, today I went out, it was 24, and I was like, let's put shorts on.
It felt so well. I mean, that was a 20 to 30 degree swing. We've been negative temps for the last 2 weeks.
Negative is
18
rough.
below, John.
18 below.
Yeah. Welcome to Nebraska, right?
18 below,
and that wasn't even with wind chill. That was just standard temps.
Yeah. No, that's outside for a few minutes. If your skin is exposed, it's freezing. So you have to really, it's dangerous to be outside.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah, far away.
Because while watching a couple of
seasons
do we
still live here?
Watching a couple of seasons of Fargo, I wonder, as well as, Minnesota places, I wonder, where do you guys put all your jackets when you get to where you're going?
You just don't go outside, right? I mean, and you kind of, it got cold. Now, pandemic wise, we're not moving around as much as we used to. So there's just less of that. And then you kind of just harden to it. You kind of scarf, hat, jacket, make sure you have a heated car,
30 right at night in the winter. That's cold. And I don't even put anything on if I'm going somewhere. I just sort of deal with it. I put a hoodie on. The car is warm. Where I'm going is warm. I'm not going outside. I just don't want to deal with the jacket.
Yeah. Well,
that's my move.
You get kind of used to it here in Nebraska. I don't, I went out today. It was 24. I went out with this hoodie on.
Yeah.
And I was actually pretty comfortable. I was like, oh, this is bad. Like when it's that cold and you're like, okay, the blood's gotten a little thick. So, well, for folks suffering, we know here in the Midwest, it's been pretty dangerous. And so just for everybody, we hope everybody's safe and gets power returned. Of course, we'll post this show with show notes out at theaverageguy.tv. Just a couple of reminders but before we get started. And we're talking all channels tonight, so hopefully you want to stay around for that. But a couple of reminders before we get started. One, we want to thank our Patreon subscribers. From all of you, I'll scroll them across the bottom. For everybody who supports the channel at $5, thanks a bunch. I just appreciate what you guys do. It allows us to kind of I'll just be honest, it's just kind of nice. So thanks for doing that. Patreon subscribers as well. And then I've had a lot of you take us up on Coinbase. John, are you a crypto guy at all? Have you kept up with what's going on in crypto? Because it's kind of
crazy. The snake oilness has kept me away. The environmental part has kept me away. I can't buy video cards because of it's kept me away. I don't know. I've got a friend that's gotten more into it in a more
I know what you're talking about, John. Manner. I got a few right here. Like, what are you talking about? There's video cards everywhere.
You know, I've stopped not liking it because it's a ridiculous idea that it's a currency. It's not a currency to me. How Tesla's going to sell $70,000 cars with 24-minute transaction times, I don't know. Yeah. But it seems like not a currency, but as a speculative item, I've been convinced that it's no different than gold, and I'm okay with it. Okay. I'm still not okay with the environmental part, though.
It does. Yeah.
I'm not that interested.
No, you're right. It's got a huge environmental impact with all the energy it's taking. We've been telling folks, if you want to get into the space, you don't have to buy video cards. You can try it out at Coinbase. So theaverageguy.tv/Coinbase gets you free $10, gets me free $10. And then there's some videos you can watch and actually make up to $30. And then try it out on their money. So if you want to give it a try, again, it's not financial advice. And if you want to get involved, theaverageguy.tv/Coinbase. Okay, I mentioned Jon Maddox is here from Channels, and John, we've been talking a lot over the last couple months. Maybe this is why you're here. Is I think it showed up on Twitter for you, and we got connected from some listeners on this, and I've really loved Channels. But before we dive in, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? So Channels is not a gigantic company. There's a couple of you doing this. Three of you doing this, which when you look at it, it's fabulous. And you think, when we met the first time, you said, "Oh yeah, we have 3." I was like, "What?" So tell us a little bit about you. How do you?
And it was only 2 up until a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So we've actually been, my partner and I, Amon, have been doing this for a very long time. Like, I've been into media center stuff since the original Xbox days when you could hack them and put Xbox Media Player on there. And that's what I ran for a very long time. I got into that because I was also a TiVo guy. And my TiVo got taken over by my wife in that she had recorded so many things that there was no room, right? There was only 2 tuners on them. And so I had to I let her just have at that. And I stopped hacking the TiVo, and it became the only thing in the house that was stable for her when she loved it. And I went on just looking for other ways to that we could do TV. And one of those things I found was Xbox Media Player, which provided not just a way to play back videos like VLC, but a library and seasons of shows and things like that. And it was really cool. And I messed around and played with that for a really long time. And eventually I started my own version of that because I wanted a centralized server, because at the time Xbox Media Player, which then turned to Xbox Media Center when it went to a Linux port, was still didn't have a centralized data store. It was all just each one had its own thing. And so I wanted something that was centralized so that I could have clients all over the house. And so I started working on my own media center to do my movies and TV shows, and worked on that as a personal project, and my friends used it for a while. I met Amon at GitHub. We were both early at GitHub, early employees, and we met each other early on because he saw the app I had made being used by a friend of ours that worked at GitHub as well. And he was like, "What is this?" And he had been doing the same thing. He had done Myth, and he had been building all that stuff on Linux and taking all that time, and he really liked it. So we kind of hooked up, and he started contributing to the project. It wasn't open source. It wasn't public. It was just sort of something we used for ourselves. And so as time moved on, the biggest problem with this was hardware, right? Because this is before Fire TVs and Rokus and certainly Apple TVs. And so we didn't have anything to run it on. So at one point we had a client that was a full Objective-C and ran on a Mac Mini, right? And despite the $599 cost, I had them on all my TVs because, darn it, I wanted that system, right? I just wanted that setup of every room in the house, pause here, resume there, do all that. So it was all sort of R&D, right? Just like, how do we make this system work? And so as time went on, clients started to get a little bit more interesting, but you still couldn't develop for them. Then there was this really cool hack for the Apple TV, the second and third gen. This is before the tvOS or the App Store, where you could hack the DNS on it. And that entire UI was driven by XML at the time. And all the apps looked the same because they were all driven by XML and had their own native UI system. So there was a trick you could do where you could point the Apple TV at your own DNS server, hijack the DNS for trailers.apple.com, and then return its responses back to it. And instead of trailers, we were returning movie posters and metadata for movies. And voila, we were on the Apple TV. And it was amazing. And it worked really well for a long time. And so we used that for a while. And then the Apple TV was announced, the one with an actual app store. And Aman's friend had one of the developer kits because they shipped developer kits before it went to retail, and he got his hands on it. And the first thing he did was try to see if we could get MPEG-2 on it, because during all this Media Center stuff that we were doing, we were also playing with the HD Home Run, which is one of the greatest devices ever made without good software support. It just never did. Everybody that had one used it for Media Center Edition. But I didn't want Media Center Edition, right? And so they added new APIs that were simple HTTP APIs, which allowed you to just hit it really easily. And we had done a little bit of playing around like that and making a DVR in our little Media Center system ahead of time. But with the Apple TV and tvOS, it started to look like we could actually like make, not do hacks. And Aman got it. He got MPEG-2 decoding in CPU, which is important because none of these things decode in hardware anymore, not MPEG. Not like the old days when we had DVD cards. And it worked. And we started making an app.
Did you, in this space, I mean, there's already a lot out there, right? I mean, when we think about, you mentioned Silicon Dust and HD Home Runs. Their software, it wasn't great, but it's getting better. We think of companies like Plex. We have a lot of folks using Plex. There's a lot of this community that listens. By when you said Windows Media Center, by the way, everybody's heart just broke because
RIP.
Because for the longest time we were on that. Did what made you feel like you couldn't just use one of those, and that you wanted to do something different?
Well, it all comes down to I didn't control it. Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
When Xbox Media Center just finally made the decision, we're getting off the Xbox, because what happened is HDTVs, right? So everybody started getting HDTVs, but they loved Xbox Media Center. And they were like, you guys have to get off the Xbox. And for a while they were like, we're not going to get off the Xbox, but it's like, come on, it's a dying platform, the Xbox. And so they finally did the Linux port. And so I moved over to that, and it was a little rough for a long time. But even before they did that, I had started playing with Xbox Media Center. And I believe what MB was MB before? Was it MB came from something?
It did. You're right. I'm trying to remember what it was.
Chat room will tell us.
Media Portal, right?
That what it was. Okay.
So the problem on Windows was Windows Media Center was great. The clients weren't so great. Like, you had to have a PC on every single device. And to be honest, having a PC hooked to your computer is a maintenance nightmare, right? Like, it's a whole operating system. There's a reason iPads and MacBooks are completely different things. One's easier to maintain than the other. The other option was Xboxes, right? Xbox 360s. I didn't want that, right? It was not friendly for the family. And I didn't even have a family yet, right? I just just wasn't good enough. It wasn't that like streamlined thing. And the problem was Xbox Media Center was a good DVR, but it was a bad Media Center. And Media Portal was a good Media Center, but it didn't have any real DVR features. So I wasn't able to merge together my DVR and my own ripped DVDs very well on Windows. And so it just came down to running my own thing, and having my own server meant I could do anything I wanted. That's the advantage of writing software.
Yeah.
Was Raspberry Pi ever a thought as your kind of...
So Raspberry Pi, when it was first announced, like the 2B plus, right?
Yeah.
Single threaded CPU, 256 megs of RAM, was like, oh my gosh, here we are. This is going to be a good Xbox Media Center client.
Right.
It wasn't, because it was too slow. But as it's moved on, it's become a great one. Very cheap, Great hardware. If you're an Xbox Media Center fan, it is amazing. And that's exactly the hardware we've been waiting for a long time, because people were running PCs with Xbox Media Center. And it was if you've got a TV on a or a dresser in your bedroom, where's the PC go? Right. You know what I mean? And it's loud and there's fans and you're sleeping in there and the person you live with hates you. So we were looking, everybody was looking for those thin clients, and the Raspberry Pi definitely popped in. It eventually became one of those. It still is. Raspberry Pi is my favorite computer of the last decade. It is an incredible device.
Same I used one for media for a while, and then even now they're great for, hey, you need an extra monitor to view your RTSP security cameras around the house, right? Just duct tape a Raspberry Pi to the back of an old monitor and you're set, and they work great for those sort of applications.
We got our channel server running on it last year on the 4, and the 4 was tricky when it first came out, right? Even RetroPie took like 8 months before it finally had a build for it, because it changed a lot and it was 64-bit and everything. But we got channels running well on it with transcoding last year. And then this fall, we have a whole custom build image that you can get, where you just image it to your SD card and you've got a DVR on your Raspberry Pi. People have been really excited about that.
Those are the sort of upgrades that I love, when there's an integration where it's, hey, here's the package, just get it and go. You don't have to worry about Debian or installing any other OS. It's just here's the package and go. That's fantic. That probably
upgrades its own OS. It upgrades its own OS. It has network shares. You do it all from the channel's DVR server interface. It's really great. People are loving it as a single appliance, but they're loving it too because people love putting channels at their parents' house. Right? They're cutting their parents' cords and they're setting up channels, and channels is a little bit finicky to set up, right? But it's really stable and you don't have to mess with it, and it upgrades itself in the background and you don't have to touch it. And so dropping it on one of these Pis with an image, it's like, boom, you're set up in, 10 minutes.
That's a perfect use case, is managing a parent's or a family member's. I have that same thing. I set one up for my parents with Plex, but it was okay. We needed the Mac Mini, and then, what are we using for storage? And all of a sudden they're like, where do I keep this thing? A Raspberry Pi makes that such an easy tuck it away in a corner device. So then are you still using an HD Home Run as the tuner for those Raspberry Pis, or something else on the network?
Yeah, but over the last year and a half, we've kind of added so many different ways that you can use channels. When we first started, of course, the app was just an HD Home Run client. It was like an email client, and we were targeting people that had HD Home Runs. And so we had this app that played it. We had a simple grid guide, and we let people pick something to watch, and that was it. Our plan originally was like, hey, this is going to be for tertiary TVs. This is going to be for the garage, the kitchen, a place you go where you know what you're going to want to watch. So you don't have a lot of expectations for the user interface. You go there, you put the news on, you're going to put the game on, But as what we saw over the first couple of months is that people were like using this as their main TV watching thing. And one of the reasons and one of the reasons it was great, and we were already pitching, was one input, right? Finally, you've got your Hulu and your Netflix and your, movie rentals, and now your live TV on one input. No more input switching, no more input 2, 1, whatever. It's just exit Netflix, go watch the Oscars. And you couldn't do that before. It's nobody had that. This was we shipped originally before, a lot of the TV streaming packages that are out there, like YouTube TV and things like that. So it was kind of a big deal then.
I think that's a good thing to kind of maybe summarize right now is, we've all been hearing from Jim on his updates as he's been, moving to channels and everything like that. But I think for a lot of us, it would help give us kind of a rundown of where channels sits today, what you can use it for, what you can do with it. Like, why would I use channels and what would it replace for me? Or what would, all the feature set that comes today in channels?
Yeah. So it's kind of tricky because channels is one of those very DIY things. It can do a bunch of things and you can throw all kinds of stuff at it and do what you want. So there's actually so many different scenarios. And the simplest scenario would be if you have Comcast or Fios and you can go buy an HD Home Run Prime, the cable card version, You can keep your cable, return all your cable boxes, and replace them with Fire TVs or Apple TVs, and you get all the TV you had before. And you're going to save hundreds a month, right? That's what I do at my house. Now, not every cable provider does that because a lot of them have copy once protection. Cox is one of them, and there's many others. Spectrum, I think, but Xfinity and Fios, they don't DRM their channels, and they work with their channels, and they work with uppercase channels really, really well. And frankly, with the cost of TV streaming things outside of the contract, right? It's not that expensive. I pay for a gigabit internet connection and a big HD package, which is just like, everything without movie channels. It's $120 a month. I mean, I think YouTube TV is $75, right? It's like really expensive.
Well, I mean, my Cox bill just for internet and unlimited data, because I crank through data, is $150. Plus, I'm paying for YouTube TV, which is an extra, $72.
Why do you pay for YouTube TV if you have cable?
That doesn't include cable. The $150 doesn't include any cable. That's just internet and unlimited data. It's $100 a month for internet.
Expensive.
Yes, and it's not even it's gigabit down, but only 35 meg up. Yeah. So it's a rough. Yeah. I would love to get rid of the $50 add-on for unlimited data. I'm trying to pare down our data usage a little bit, but
it's like the old days of unlimited minutes on the phone. You just wanted to pay to not worry about it.
And that's exactly why I do it.
You just didn't want to worry about it.
I want to be able to throw a new game on my console or whatever. And not worry about, oh shoot, am I running close on data this month? Yeah,
it's not a good feeling.
If you're gaming, you're screwed right now. I mean, if you have an Xbox,
for sure. 60 gig games.
Yeah.
And each update's like 25 gig. Yeah, and they're doing those every other week on like Call of Duty.
Fortnite's update is the whole game every time.
It's like Call of Duty, right? And if you have kids who play both those, or if you yourself, like me, play all those, yeah.
Well, at least you've got broadband.
True.
Like, I mean, I don't even know how people, it makes me so sad. People are being completely left out of things because they don't have any of this stuff. So anyways, that's one of the scenarios. Another scenario is you can take right now, you can install Channel's DVR server. You can log in with your, what provider did you say you had?
Cox.
Oh, so you can log in with Cox, and it will authenticate all the channels that you receive over TV Everywhere. TV Everywhere, of course, is the technology that lets you log into streaming apps. So you download the Bravo app, and then you log in with your provider. And then you download the TNT app, and you log in with your provider. And so channels will allow you to do that as well, and you get everything in a single lineup. And so without any extra hardware, you can do that. Now, you can also do both of those things, right? You could have a cable card tuner and get cable and then log in with your cable channel. And now you have like almost unlimited tuners, right? Except one quality is going to be different than the other. One will be MPEG and one will be the streaming quality, which is H.264 at AAC 2 channels. For the, I know that your listeners probably care about that stuff.
Yes, they do.
They do.
But it's great, right? So like some things I record on TV Everywhere to free up a tuner because I don't care. I don't need 5.1. Right. And also the recordings are smaller. So you get to like play with all this stuff. Another thing is HD Home Run, of course, makes an OTA tuner. So you plug in your antenna and maybe you're getting your locals because with TV Everywhere, you won't get your locals. Right. You can fill in that gap with either Locast if you're in one of those areas. I don't know if you're familiar with Locast, but Locast is a nonprofit that you could donate to that will stream you your local channels without you setting up an antenna.
Oh, interesting.
And so it's only available in about 25, 30 cities right now. But if you're in that area, you can log in with your Locast account and you get all those channels. And if you can't do that, you get an HD Home Run OTA tuner, plug an antenna, and now you've got all those. And if you want, you can have as many tuners as you want. So if you record a ton or you have a big family and you want to record and watch and not have to have anxiety about tuners, you can get 3 tuners. And with 4 or 3 devices with 4 tuners each, now you got 12 things that you can record or watch, and it doesn't reflect on the guide. The guide just stays the same. Channels handles it in the background, and you can have a Prime or an OTA one or the TV Everywhere. It all mixes up and just works. You don't notice anything. You just watch stuff.
Are there any limitations as to what channels can be done through TV Everywhere?
The limitations are what your provider has licensed, right? Okay. So like a lot of the confusion that we have to deal with that we wish would be a lot easier, but we work with our customers as, you know, as best as we can and try to communicate this ahead of time. But sometimes people are confused by the fact that they have all these channels on Sling, right? But when they sign in with channels, they only get, say, 70% of them. And they're like, well, I get TNT on Sling. Why don't I get it? And the reason is that we're not integrating with Sling. We're integrating with TV Everywhere. And if Sling hasn't licensed TNT or all Tuner channels with the TV Everywhere system, then it won't work. So what you end up with is we have a lot of customers that will actually double up on providers, and they'll have two different plans. They'll have Philo and maybe Sling or things like that. And then that actually gets them different coverage for all the channels that they want. And it's tricky for us because we don't really know until you sign up, because things are different in different areas, especially with cable providers. Things get regional. But that's why, we have a 30-day plan, or 30-day. The first 30 days are free. So a lot of times when we can't answer these questions, we tell our customers, just sign up. It's no risk. You've got 30 days. The app from the streaming box is free. The server is free. You sign up. You can cancel at any time. And when you do cancel, it fulfills your whole period, so you don't get canceled right away. And we can go month to month. So if you want to go, and if you need more trial time, people ask us that all the time. We give them some more. But then you can figure out if it works for you. Like if your provider is giving you the channels you need, because everybody's got those set of channels that they want.
Yeah. Well, that leads right into my next question, was going to be, so can you access your channel stuff from outside of your local LAN?
100%.
Okay. Because I've been thinking of trying to figure out a solution for my parents. They have, houses in 3 different states that they are constantly at. And my dad is freaking out about paying for cable in every single one, because my mom has these few channels that you can't get, like Hallmark Channel and EWTN, right? She's a Catholic and loves her Hallmark channels. And
we have a lot of Hallmark fans.
Right. And so my dad has been trying to find a way to find one solution. And so I've been thinking, okay, if there was something like channels you could set up at your home base, their home base is at one house. That's kind of their main one. And that's where they have all their channels. I'm okay, maybe we find you one solution that could pull in. And I've been struggling to find something that pulls in TV Everywhere, all this stuff. This sounds like it could be a perfect solution to at least try and get as much as we could under one roof.
Look, we started out as this HD home run app, right? And as time went on, we ended up with the TV Everywhere stuff. And all of a sudden, it's like we're becoming this weird sources thing where we can combine stuff and do stuff. One of the things that people love the most is that they're pulling providers and adding new ones, and their family doesn't even know, right? Because it's the app just works on itself. It streams, the streams. It doesn't stream from the provider. It streams from the TV Everywhere provider. And so you can actually change your providers around and try one month, try another month, and see what you like. And you're not disrupting anybody. And so all of a sudden you get this weird kind of nerd strategy where you want to combine stuff together to get just the right thing on the back end. But on the front end, everybody's just using the app. It's not like, oh, the channel numbers are different now, or where is everything? Nothing changes. And so you mentioned the multiple houses. We have a ton of customers that set this up and they love it. Like they set it up at the home base and then they go to the other house and they don't have to have anything, which is a big deal, right? Because if you've got these houses, you got like 3x utilities. Yes. And if you can drop TV, it's fantastic, because for money. I mean,
it's exactly
there's
right.
There's no other reason, right? Like it's fantastic. And it's also a little bit easier. We used to rent beach houses and I'd bring our stuff with us because we had the experience the same versus whatever the cable box was on the beach house. My family would just be like, boo, 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 using their stuff. I'm very big on normalization. I've got the same remote in every room of my house. So it's easy for everybody. But so we stream from home. It works fantastic. The streaming's our Eric, our third partner, who came on a couple years ago, who was a good friend. He worked on that because he would travel. He traveled a ton, and he'd be in Japan or Africa, and he used our stuff, and he's like, "Guys, your stuff's terrible." And we're like, "I don't know, man. I'm using it here in America, and it's great." And he's like, "No, it's not." And so he joined on, and he got the streaming incredible. I was at a house fixing Wi-Fi while my kids were watching something on TV, and I had to take the whole Wi-Fi network down and then like bounce it. And I was like, here we go, right? Complaints from the living room, not a peep, because it never lost its connection because of the buffer and everything like that was just so perfect. Wow. As soon as the internet came back on, it started buffering again. It had so much buffer locally that it didn't even budge. And I know it sounds like I'm bragging about our own product, but I'm really just so happy as a dad that it just worked.
That's why we have you on here, John.
So if you're accessing it from outside the house, then is, if it is coming from if not an OTA source, right? So TV Everywhere, some of that, is it flowing through the server itself where channels is set up and then back out to wherever, or can it come directly from the internet?
For remote streaming, everything comes from your house.
Okay, so you need to make sure you have decent upload, because that was the other thing, making sure. I was like, well, your upload's really slow. You might not have a good experience having a server in your home house. We're trying to figure out the best place to put that. Like maybe I host it here. I'm figuring out that then I don't have the same cable. It's just so this could be a great setup.
You got to figure that out for sure. I'm on Fios. I've got a gig up, so I basically have infinity.
So envious.
I mean, compared to what people get, like 5 and 8 is like just hostile and abusive. It's really bad. So you got to watch that. But we're not making this for sharing. We're not making this for your 12 friends. We're making this for your family.
Right.
So if you've got 8 up, or even if you've got 3 up and you're in a hotel room or you're at a rental house for a vacation or your own house, vacation house, 3 and 8 will be okay, because we not only let you set the quality, but also we have, it actively checks your bandwidth and will drop up and down. So you won't have spinners, right? It'll fix it. And if you've got really great bandwidth, then it works great. And it works for every source.
I like that. I like that focus on it's for you and your family, right? We're not trying to go out there and be the sharing platform. It's you and your people. That's great.
John, my setup, when we came to this, and I'm trying to remember, I think that was maybe back in December. I really had struggled on Plex to watch sports. It just, for whatever reason, didn't work for me. And I've done servers all over the house and whatever. So my first experience was to load it on Windows, because why wouldn't I? I'm a Windows guy, right? That's what I hadn't bought the Mac yet. So I was a Windows guy, and I loaded on Windows. You said that's a little clunky. It actually was perfect for me. Like I installed it, got it configured, and had it running in about 7 minutes. Like it was a pretty easy experience to get that running.
Yeah, the Plex server onboarding flow is good.
Yeah, well, no, this is channels. This isn't Plex. This is channels. Like, no, like Plex is a whole different deal. Like Plex is a good half hour to an hour of going in and configuring it and setting some things up. I had it connected to the HD home run and running within 10 minutes. I mean, it was pretty amazing. Got it working on my phone. 5 more minutes later, downloaded the app, had it working. I thought, this is great. Then immediately, but I don't want it on a PC. So I really want it on the HD or on the NVIDIA Shield. So went out, installed the app, got it set up. It's sometimes on the Shield, it's a little hard with nothing for channels. This is just getting stuff. IP address, some of those kinds of things. But got it running and had Sarah, spend a week with it and just said, hey, watch your shows. I set up all her shows on it, by the way, super easy to set up. Is there anything on the dashboard? I have my dashboard up, like the settings dashboard. Is there anything on there I shouldn't show if I show this live? John, do you know? Like, as you
Let
think
me look
about
at mine.
Okay.
Are you talking about the settings page on the DVR server?
The web admin? The DVR server web admin.
Let's see. I don't think so.
Okay, let's just do it. Oh, what the heck?
Yeah.
So
external IP. No, I'm just kidding.
It's small, so you have to. But a really well laid out. Again, I'll compare it to Plex in some regards, where there's like 18 tabs and maybe not that many, 17 tabs, and there's just a lot of configuration going on. Pretty simple here. You can kind of see my setup. I've got it running on the Shield. It gives me some information about the Shield, how much RAM, how much disk I'm using. You can see the 2 sources down here. I have both a dual and a connect, which, by the way, when I set up no joke that you guys started these and made them for the HD home runs. That Plex setup used to be, that was a 15 or 20 minute setup to get one of the tuners working. I almost had to like double check because I was like, did it actually do the setup? I mean, it picked them up so fast, had them available. I thought maybe it didn't get them all, and it did. It was crazy. I mean, it's crazy how good that is on the HD home run. And then some, I've got some information about the DVR database and the guide database here. Another area, you guys seem to get the guide stuff fast. Like, it's another thing on Plex that takes forever to come in, and the guide data just updated. I don't know. It was fast for me, so I won't guess on times there. But you still get a bunch of options. I mean, I think some of our listeners have been like, well, but I like all my options. Well, you still get quite a bit of options there, right? You mentioned transcoder, right? Adaptive streaming, server quality that you just mentioned right down here, right? I can set the server quality. What kind of feedback are you getting now from your community? The channel's community is pretty active, right? Pretty helpful out there as well. So if folks want to get out there and get information from the channel's community, they can do it as well. What kind of feedback are you getting from them?
So we get tons of feedback from everybody. When we first, I've written a lot of software. When I was at GitHub, I wrote a ton of internal software that basically would help us be the way we were. We were a really kind of a weird kind of company that kind of did our own thing, and we were very remote. And so I built lots of software that helped us do that stuff. And my peers at GitHub were very opinionated with their software as well. It was sort of the time that we came out of. It was kind of that was what was a big thing. And I still am. And I think I know what's right. It's my job. It's my responsibility to make the software good and have those right decisions and have those right opinions. And so that's how we started the app out. But as we started to move on and we started to look at who we wanted to write the app for, and the person we wanted to write the app for was basically ourselves, which is how you should always write your app software, right? Not only are we users, but we're 40-year-old people that don't have the time to build Myth TV or other things and rebuild our library and our metadata every Sunday because either the upgrade just broke everything or it just wasn't compatible. And so what we really wanted to do was we wanted to build software that was fun to use and was still like let you kind of feel hacky, but at the same time didn't ruin your Sundays. Your family didn't get mad at you. You could rely on it and honestly introduce it to them. And they were like, hey, let's use this. Yeah, this is great, which we're getting a lot of feedback that that's what people are doing. And so as time has gone by, our community has been huge for that because we have been successful and attracted that community. We've got a lot of people that, they won't put up with nonsense, that want reliability, that want their ways to work. And we do we listen and we balance that with what we think should be. When we set up to do the DVR, first we had the app, right? And then we decided to do the DVR. And the first thing that Aman and I did was we set up a discourse, right? We set up a community site and we announced it on that site. And every email that we ever got, which wasn't a lot because you can't get anybody's information from the App Store, and we were only on the App Store at the time, we sent them the community URL. And then we sent them the link to our announcement that we're building a DVR. And everybody was super excited. But the reason the first thing we did was build that community site is because we needed help. Aman and I come from an open source background. We sort of don't know any other way of building software except transparency. And so while we make the decisions at the end of the day, we absolutely know that we don't know everything about how the software should work. We don't even have all the devices it runs on. Right? Like, it's just plain helpful to involve the community in terms of like, hey, try this out. Does it work? Oh, it doesn't. What's the log? Let us fix it. Here's a new version. That's us all day long. And so the community has really just exploded in terms of telling us about bugs, telling us about workflows that they want, telling us about things that are terrible in the app and the way it should be. And we listen and read every single post on our community site. We also do all the support. So we know we answer all the support emails. So we know what's going on and what people are complaining about or what's just not good enough. It's not so much about what's broken or what's bad. Just it's for us, it's what's not good enough. Because we want something that's super awesome and we want it simple, and we're not willing to, it's very hard developing channels because we want to make sure that it's easy to use, but we wanted to make it powerful as well. And we've slowly but surely started adding more and more and more options because we really do want people to be able to create their own TV watching experience without the app looking like 9,000 links inside of it. You know, so it's tough, but that's sort of our goal. And the community's been everything. They've been so helpful for all of it.
Yeah, it looks, I mean, the community's laid out really well. I just was looking, I'm on an NVIDIA Shield, so I was like, oh, I wonder how much, I wonder how much chat is out there around that. And, there's some threads to kind of help me out in the forums. So how do you get, what's like the most common feedback that you guys get, or what are you excited about as we think about some stuff that you're working on for the future? What kind of things are you looking towards?
So for us, we're still not really at 1.0 because while we started with a live TV app and then made a DVR, now we still haven't quite shipped the media center part of it, which allows you to add your own local content. Right. And that's important for us too, because we want one thing. We just recently shipped Streamlinks. And I don't know if you saw those, but Streamlinks it's this adorable little simple thing where it's a text file with a Streamlink extension. And the content of the text file is a link to a third-party app, right? Like a link to a Netflix movie. And the title is the title of the movie. And it scans in as if it was local content. Except channels will see it and be like, oh, this is a link. So it shows up in your library while you're browsing and browsing and browsing. Like, let's say you add The Incredibles, right, for Disney Plus. Well, you add a text file. Now you have Disney's Incredibles inside channels. And you go to click to play it. It doesn't play in channels. It boots you to the Apple TV or, the Disney Plus app and immediately starts playing, right? Now, this is one of those things that we built that didn't take a long time. Somebody did actually ask for it on our community. We debated if it was like worth it or not. And we decided, you know what? It doesn't take that long. I don't think everybody's going to use it, but there's going to be people out there that are like, you know what? I don't have all the Pixar movies, but Disney Plus does. And I subscribe to them. And Disney Plus is one of 4 streaming apps I make my kids use. And what if instead I could at least tell them to start, even though they're going to get kicked out and end up in Disney Plus, which isn't the experience we want, right? Because we've seen these aggregators, but at least you can start from channels and be like, boom, here it is. I can find it using the same search and it shows up just like a movie is. It's just not actually in your library. So we're sort of creating all these different sources to create this make your own TV thing. We all know what the biggest complaints are right now. I pay for all these sources and I got to use 8 different apps that all work differently. And mostly they're all crappy. I mean, nobody invests any time into the user interface. And so you end up with HBO Max and Netflix and all these apps that have their own continue watching thing. What if we had everything in one thing, which is what TiVo is trying to do with their streaming device, which is what Google's trying to do. Everybody's trying to do it. It's very hard. I mean, we're not going to get to it where everything plays inside, because if Google and Apple can't do it, I mean, we're not going to do it, but we're doing our best to at least do it in some kind of classy way to let you try it out if you want, even if the caveats are there.
One of your newest announcements was a little bit of some work with Play On. You want to talk a little bit about what you're doing with them?
Yeah, so they emailed us. Jeff, the CEO, emailed us a little before Christmas time. And we, of course, know who Play On is. I used Play On way back in the day, back when I was just doing all kinds of stuff in Media Center days, right? And we all know they've been around for a long time. And we took the call. We were like, hey, let's talk about stuff. And we talked to him and we just sort of chatted. And when we got off the phone, we started thinking about it, because I was like, hey, can I get some credits and I'll try it out? And when we started to think about it, we were like, this is sort of perfect for channels, because what if we could get it to automatically download into channels? And we talked to Jeff a couple days later, And their tech was in a place that was really easy for us to integrate with. It was great. We were super excited. Basically, they have right now they have a downloader that'll you queue the recordings with their app, and then their downloader downloads it for you. So we basically just adopted those APIs into Channel's DVR server, and now Channel's DVR server automatically downloads it. You continue to use PlayOn as normal, but then they just end up in Channel's. And again, like the Streamlinks or imports for local content, they show right up, and everything's the same. There's nothing different about them. It's you get those movies. And so now there's another way to get stuff into your library, right? And so you start getting these things that people have either already exist or very accessible. PlayOn's great. You download the app, you log into your streaming services, and then you tell it to record the things. A couple hours later, they show up in your Channel's library.
I like that, especially from a perspective of kids, with a single kind of place where I know what movies they're going to watch every single day, 5 times a day, right? They've all got to, and those movies rotate. But I like being able to them have just one, because they're not used to switching apps, and they don't know what app has the movie they want, right? Is this a Netflix show? Is this Disney Plus show? Is this on Plex for me currently, right? Like, where is that at? And they're constantly having to switch. So I love that kind of aggregation approach, even if it does kick you back out to the app, right? Even if it's one of the links, that's still, they know the one interface that they could do. I like that. When we think about, I was looking through the website. So if we wanted to get started with Channels, from looking at it, if I just have a HD home run, I want OTA and I want TV everywhere, do you need one centralized device, or can you just install the app on an iPad or your Apple TV and be good to go? How does the setup work? Do we need to set up one kind of centralized server like you would with a traditional Plex, MB, those sort of things?
Absolutely. So when we first started the DVR, it was like, oh, well, first of all, you can't run a DVR on these streaming boxes, right? They have no storage, and at least for tvOS, they can't background, right? So we immediately had to have a separate server, but that allows us to do like anything we want now.
Right.
We're not at the will of app stores or rules or the limitations that these mobile devices have. It's like a real computer. I mean, even a Raspberry Pi is like 10 times better than an Apple TV in terms of what it can do. And so at the time, it was you could just buy the app for $25 and use your HD Home Run for live TV, which you still can now, or you would get the app for free and install the server for your HD Home Run. But as time has gone by, since we have that server, we get to do all this TV everywhere stuff and all kinds of extra sources that we would never do if it was only on the device. Because with the multiple platforms, it's just so hard. But now you just do everything on the server, and the client, just is dumb.
I love that. So what's your favorite or recommended kind of hardware for that server? What's the easiest? What's your favorite?
We like the Apple TV. We think the Apple TV is the best device out there. It's a little bit more expensive than everything else, but
so that can be the server.
Oh no, as the server. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, as the server.
So that again, if you want to get in the door, if you're one person in an apartment and it's just you, throw it on a Raspberry Pi. You're done. Seriously, especially if you're using TV everywhere, because if you're using an HD Home Run, it's going to be a little bit harder on it for commercial skipping and stuff like that, or commercial indexing with the MPEG. But with the H.264 coming from TV everywhere, I mean, you're better than good. You're never going to transcode and our stuff doesn't transcode inside the house. That's important to remember too. We play right off the wire. Like, we have a custom video player that we have put a lot of time into, so that when you play it, it just plays the MPEG 2. It does not. It plays MKVs. It plays it plays HEVC in all kinds of containers. It's a custom video player. There's no transcoding. The only time that it's transcoding is if you've chosen to, because for some reason your Wi-Fi network is bad in your house, or you're remote and you're saving data. But even remote, you can use original quality, which is what I do a lot of times because I've got a lot of upload bandwidth.
Does it help to have one of the HD Home Runs that transcodes?
No.
I don't know what version.
In fact, it's worse. Our transcoding is better. Okay. And the Extend is not a very stable HD Home Run device. We love HD Home Runs, but the Extend has had a bad history of it's just not a very historically stable device.
It's funny you say that, because I bought the Extend for the simple version. I was running on a very limited hardware from my media center, got the extension. I'm like, sweet, it has transcoding built in, save some CPU on the media server. And I actually just turn that off. I just go straight MPEG 2 straight in, because whatever hardware for media I'm running usually does a better job of transcoding. So interesting, you guys ran into the same issue.
8 to 10-year-old computers have GPU transcoding now, right? We're so far beyond GPU transcoding and hardware transcoding. Everything you use has it. So it's sort of like when we first got into the game, right? We were like, ugh, some people can go remote, some people can't. You got to have the transcoding. But at this point, man, everything has transcoding.
Does AMD have it built in? If you're running an AMD machine without a GPU, they does have it built in.
Everything.
Okay.
Yeah, everything's got a hardware offloading thing.
Got it.
And so to complete your question, Raspberry Pi out the door easy. If you're looking for something a little bit beefier and you want to invest, like say maybe you've got 2 houses, or maybe you're like, you know what, I'm gonna have thousands of movies. I'm doing this. Definitely Synology 220, the DiskStation 220 Plus. It's a little bit. It's not cheap, but it's not expensive, and you can get it in a 4-bay or a 2-bay. And the Synology software is just really good. It's just really good stuff.
I run an Unraid server. Do you guys have Docker capabilities to run?
Oh yeah, Docker works for all that.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
All right, John. So if you've been listening to the show, and I know you have, because you're a faithful Home Gadget Geeks listener now, you know that I have this new Mac Mini. Now I'm currently running channels off the NVIDIA Shield. It's a pretty good box. You saw that. Should I move it? Like, okay, should I be running?
So as you're showing on the screen right now our news post about Apple Silicon support. Really like to talk about how we were at native in a week of it launching, right? And we didn't even have the SDK. That was us getting a Mini and us getting our build stuff working. We were on ARM before, right? Because we were on other NASs and we're on the Raspberry Pi. But we were then a week, we were native on there. And what's really, so if you want to talk about transcoding, if you want good transcoding, move it to the M1 Mini, because that chip that they've been shipping, even on the 2018 Mac Mini, they have it. It is real fast. Like real fast transcoding. It's crazy. If your Mini's not doing anything, all that what are you using your Mini for?
This. So it's the studio PC. So live streaming, broadcasting, video editing, audio editing, those kinds of things.
You could throw it on there and see what happens. Channels DVR doesn't have a lot of spikes. If the recordings come in, it'll spike the disc, right? Because it's recording, but it's not really that bad. It really uses like no resources at all, barely any RAM. The only time it uses resources are transcoding and commercial indexing. And we actually just shipped away to use more than one core for your commercial indexing, which if you've got a lot of threads on your computer, it may be advantageous to just use more to get it done quicker versus using less and it being running longer. So again, it's up to you. You can play with it. The Shield's going to be fine for you. But if you put it on the Mini, it'll be fast. But again, like I said, it doesn't need a fast computer. We've got people running it off of Raspberry Pis. Right. They're $35 computers.
The times I'm broadcasting, most of the time, like right now, I hear the TV behind me. Sarah's watching, like she's watching. So we do share that time, right? I'm not too worried about it. I mean, if I did make that move, it was just when I saw this, I was like, oh, because I bought it specifically for the M1 chip. Like I had M1 Envy. Like I was like, I need this chip. Like it sounds
I'm on
so
one
good
right now.
So yeah, so
I got it for the laptop and I ditched my iMac 3 days later and was like, well, this is my main computer now.
No, it's been fabulous so far. I mean, it's not without its problems, but
if it were me, I like to in my older age, the ops side of me says separate them because like you don't want, for some reason, TV spiking up and like screwing up a live podcast. That's just like whether or not it can run fine, it's just probably not a sound thing to do. Sure. That's my opinion.
Sure.
Right. Like if in a production environment, you wouldn't do that. If you told somebody, hey, I set up a Plex server on the audio server that we do live stuff on, they'd be like, what are you talking about? Why would you do that?
Right. Yeah.
And that's more of an ops opinion.
If
but I'm probably fine.
If I'm a Windows guy, and I've got kind of an older, maybe a 6-year-old, 5-6-year-old Windows box.
Tons of
no
people
issues
doing that.
Okay.
That's the beauty. Like I said, these 6-year-old computers are really fast. You're talking Gen 3 or Gen 4 i5s.
Right.
That's a really fast computer to be like, oh, it's old. Like, what can we do with these computers? They're so fast.
Yeah, well, I've still got some Core i3s that are fairly old that are repurposed to do. We talked about Unraid. I've got Unraid running on a Core i3 530, and it does what it needs to do. Like it just continues to work. So, John, anything else as we're getting here close to the top of the hour? Anything else you'd add? Anything we missed that we should be talking about when we're thinking about channels? I mean, I think by now you're listening to the show. I've been talking about it for a while. We did spend a bunch of time talking about it at the beginning of the year, but I think some folks are going to want to check this out. Anything else they should know going into this?
Just that, I guess to know who we are. We're writing this software for ourselves and our families, and stability is really important to us. Our fans love us for the fact that they set up a cord cutting device that their family was like, hey, I'll try this and use it. Which, I don't think I'm crazy to say that that's not that common. Everybody wants to do it, but it's all been a pain. This is what we're setting out to do. We're just trying to make software that you love, software that helps you. That sounds corny, I know, but it's sort of how I've written software forever. Just to make software should be something that's improving your life, that isn't ruining it. Because a lot of software these days just ruins your life. And so that's our goal. People are loving it. Families are loving it. It's really stable. That's very important to us. And if you have any questions, contact us right away. If you have any ideas, I mean, if you tried it and it doesn't do what you want and doesn't work for your workflow, go open a post on the community. We read every single post. Whether we reply to them or not, we read every single post.
Couple of questions or a couple comments come in from the chat room. Let's just bring them in. So,
okay.
Tony says, interesting. I have a spare Raspberry Pi 4 and a 4 terabyte external hard drive. That should work great, right? John's been trying it. Says loves in the built-in commercial skipping in channels. That's something I didn't tell Sarah that was even there, and she came back a couple days later. She's like, "Oh, the index, I can just skip past them. That's pretty great." Now, to be fair, that was in Plex before, but she found that very, very quickly and used that pretty easily. John says he's running channels in an Unraid Docker right now, Mike. So I have a feeling, actually, John, while we're talking, Mike is installing this on his...
Jim knows I'm notorious, but as we talk, I start to set it up and play around with it. I was actually over in Unraid right now. I was looking to see if it was in the community app store. It's not, so I'll have to build a little Docker for it and get it up.
If you go to getchannels.com/DVR-server, and all that stuff's right there.
Perfect.
John asks, do you have a Roku app?
So, that's probably the answer to your question of what's the number one thing people are asking about. We're very familiar that Roku is the number one streaming app or streaming box out there, but we also are familiar with the fact that Roku knows it, right? And we are not the biggest fan of Roku for a couple of things. Number one, their development platform is completely unique to them. There's nothing shared. If we were to write a Roku app, it's start from ground zero. And we don't want to do cross-platform. Our apps are native. Our Android and Fire TV app are native. Our Apple TV app is native, iOS, all that stuff. It's very important to us. But Plex also has a million caveats when it comes to decoding MPEG-2. It can't do it. It just can't. There's an HD Home Run app that does it, but only some channels work. Because it's not just about decoding MPEG-2, it's deinterlacing it too. It's very, very hard because a lot of OTA will come across at 1080i. And when it's 1080i, we have to deinterlace it. And it takes a lot of effort in CPU and GPU to do it. And the Roku just doesn't have it. So if we were to do a Roku app, it would 100% be transcoding. So now all of a sudden, one of the features that we love the most about our app and everybody else does is gone. Right? Our fast tuning, are playing the native video, all that's gone. So it's sort of just this thing where it's like, well, it's going to take us forever to build the app. The app's not going to be as good as everything else. And we just sort of just been like, no, we're just like, maybe one day it'll work out. We are very familiar. It pains us to know when people are like, I have 5 Roku TVs in my house. And that's great because there's no streaming box. It's all built in. And those TCL TVs are great. And they come with Rokus in it. And if I could snap my fingers and make a Roku app tomorrow, I would, right? But it's sort of like there's just all these reasons for us not to do it. And we're a small team. And, we're looking into it. It's not a no forever, but it's Roku as a box right now does not stand like the other boxes to provide the experience we're providing for everybody. Okay. So we'll see.
Yeah, fair answer. Jon, you're in the TV space. As we look ahead in the future, any gadgets coming along that you have your eyes on that you're kind of excited about as far as either players or platforms or systems or just directions things are going? That you can talk about. We're not looking for anything exclusive.
Well, I don't know. I mean, as far as TV boxes go, like, I don't know. They're all sort of like are the same now. It's all about the software. I would like to see software get better. I would like to see more expensive Fire TVs that have less advertising in them. It's one of the reasons we pushed the Apple TV. Earlier you asked what's the suggested. Oh no, you were asking what the suggested server hardware was, and I was answering client. And the answer to that is Apple TV because we developed for that first. We like it the most, and then our features go over to the Android and Fire TV apps. But the reason we like it the most is that it doesn't have advertising on it. It doesn't track everything you do, and the other boxes do. And they've got this battle of who's going to win the wars, and the way they do it is by loss leaders. And what I would love to see? I would love to see an Android TV box, which is probably the Shield. There's not a lot of advertising on the Shield, and you have to pay for it, just like the Apple TV. And so having Fire TV, having Amazon do something like that would be cool too. Like just a little bit more expensive with a little bit less advertising, with a little bit more custom experience versus we want you to stream this right now. We're going to cram it down your throat. These devices aren't as personal as people think they are. You don't get to pick and choose what you see on the home screens. It's all AI suggestions, and that's all about who's paying the most that month.
Yeah, let's be really clear. There's an NVIDIA Shield that's $325. So it's not like those are necessarily cheap devices.
But it does have ads on it now. It didn't used to, but it does now with the suggested banner at the top.
Oh yeah. What about 4K from your going forward? Like, I mean, 4K is everywhere at this point.
Okay.
So talk to that.
We do 4K fine. You import, if you have 4K ultra Blu-ray rips or something like that, it works fine. We are currently working on ATSC 3 support for the HD home run. Silico Dust has an ATSC 3 4K HD home run. Right now in most regions, they're still testing the towers, and they're all 1080. They're not 4K yet, but they are HEVC. Right. So they've moved over. So you're looking at 1080p signals, and we're working right now. Every city's starting to have different bugs for us, but we're fixing it right away. And we're fixing them as fast as people can tell us about problems. We've got a real robust diagnostic system inside of our app. So when people have trouble, we tell them submit diagnostics. We get them sent to us right away. We get to see everything that's going on, and we're able to fix things as fast as we can. But 4K broadcast is a little far away, but we're closer than anybody else, I think, right now. We're playing back audio, video, everything.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited for the future. I mean, it has created for me. I get less questions about hey, this isn't working. Hey, why didn't this record? We did have a weird, since we've been using channels, and I think we're having some problems. Maybe the tuners, but Friday nights, for some reason, just would not record all the shows.
We don't record on Friday nights.
Apparently, they have blue laws. There's blue laws that say
Friday nights are for board games. We're very opinionated.
You should be reading a book, something like that. But it was kind of weird. We were trying to pin that down and figure out, okay, why are all the shows getting kind of messed up on Friday nights? Do you guys from one of the one of the problems with sports has always been it's unpredictable about when it ends. And that's always been a struggle. Is that something, can you guys handle that as far as figuring out like when, how does that work?
I believe Sage TV has some sort of feature that like figures this out for it and it will pad it for you. We don't do that, but we do support padding manually or automatically. Well, by automatic, I mean, we prompt you. Anytime you go to record something, it will, when it knows that it's a live program, it'll say, hey, it's like the TiVo did for years, right? I believe that's where we, got that from. Hey, this looks like this program's live. Do you want to add some padding to the end? So we suggest that. With season passes, you can add padding to the end as well. We don't do anything on the fly with sports though. But one of the things that we lean on is the fact that we are DIY, where with a TiVo, it's like everybody was all about the recording storage, right? Like if I record too much, then my stuff's going to get dumped off the bottom. And so I got to be careful. But it's 2021 and you can't buy anything smaller than a 5 terabyte USB hard drive from Best Buy. And so storage isn't really a big deal for us. So we suggest, like, if you're worried about the game, just pad it 2 hours or 3 hours, and just delete it afterwards because you're really not going to use a lot of storage.
My Plex box would not allow me to record content, or it'd give me a warning via USB off the shield. It would say, this hard drive's not fast enough. And so I basically shucked a 8 terabyte hard drive and put a 1 terabyte SSD in there to use it as a device, because it was going to be an area I kind of wanted it protected. Any issues? Have you guys seen any of that as far as if I wanted to use a single spinner off this recording wise?
People use it all the time.
Okay.
Whether it's a NAS and it's spread across 2 drives or 4 drives, or it's just one 5 terabyte Seagate plugged into USB, or it's the only thing we suggest is please don't record on USB thumb drives or SD cards. It'll work the night you set it up, but eventually it's all just going to crash down and you're going to lose everything.
Why is that?
It's bad flash memory. It's just cheap. Yeah. It's just not. It's not set up to do that kind of stuff. I mean, I still have anxiety setting up Raspberry Pis with a SD card. In fact, our Raspberry Pi image, it's specifically for USB hard drives. So you flash it to a hard drive, it partitions it in a million different ways. You plug it into USB, and it USB boots off of that. And now you're not in, because we had trouble suggesting Raspberry Pis because it was like, their SD cards are going to get corrupted in 3 weeks. And then they're all going to come back and be upset. And we don't want anybody to be upset. So with our Raspberry Pi imaging thing, it boots off of the USB drive and it's good to go. Like it will not mess up. And so it's a lot better that way.
That's fantastic. Well, as a testimony to your documentation, I already have it up and running. I'm using it in Unraid right now. That was the easiest. That was almost easier than finding it in community applications. Just add the repository. It shows up as a template. That was probably a minute and a half. I found that. And you guys have specific Unraid instructions too on your website. I rarely see that. So
shout out to the community.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I mean, we don't use Unraid. What do we know about Unraid, right? This is why we've included and made sure that we got a 2-way road going so that people are like, this doesn't work. And then we figure it out and it works for them. They're like, thanks. And
you said it's a 30-day trial, right?
Yeah, 30 days.
Okay. Well, we have a lot of Unraid people. We have a lot, that was the easiest process ever. So I'm going to give it a shot here for the next 30 days and play with it and have some fun and get the wife acceptance factor. See what she thinks about it. And
it took me 2 weeks, Mike. It took me 2 weeks. And she was like, you can shut down the other server.
The family stuff is just our biggest compliment because like I said, I've been in this space a long time. Yeah. And whether it was in my own house or it was, somewhere else. I mean, I have to be honest. My wife is my muse. She doesn't put up with crap for technology, right? If it takes too many clicks or if it doesn't work like she expects it, she doesn't take shit. And I say, she's right. That's how it should be. Mm-hmm. All of us are walking around like the fact that we used to turn radios on like this. Now we're listening to music. Now it's 12 taps on our phone to AirPlay and pick a song and stream. That's why nobody listens to music anymore, you know? And so she doesn't do that. And I am so like impressed with her. And so I, you know, if I want her using my own software, it's gotta be like that.
John, that's gotta be the funniest thing I've seen.
That's how we used to listen to music.
You're right. It was a ham radio. I do a lot of ham radio on my desk, so I'm still the very analog ham radio guy.
You kept it on. You know, these days, if somebody built a radio today, every time you turned it on, it would reset to a like 0 for the tuning station instead of being on the same one that you were on last. Yeah, and that's how it used to work. It was great.
Yeah, indeed. Well, John, thanks for coming on and being a part of just the community. And before we're going to let you go because we've kept you long enough, but before I let you go, you're a gadget geek. Like you're in. If you were to kind of talk about the gadget you couldn't live without at this point, I mean, what are you into, or even what kinds of gadgets, whether it's home automation or any of those kinds of things, what are you messing around with right now?
You know, the answer to this isn't fair. You should exclude smartphones from this question because like we live in a world where good Lord, like, I mean, it would be tough. And the reason is, and I started doing iOS stuff early because early on in the mobile world, I was so excited for data on my phone and being able to access anything I wanted or control anything I wanted. So for me, the iPhone's still like number one on just the fact that like, cause now I don't have to build the software. Everybody's building all this software and I can just control anything from anywhere. It's a really big deal. If I excluded that, I would say as a general, as much trouble as I cause with my home automation, I don't think I could live without it at this point in terms of turning it on and off lights. Yeah. Like we moved a couple years ago and got a little bit bigger of a house. And if I started with automated lights at the old house, this one is just like, I mean, I can't imagine turning off this many lights every time I went to bed.
Which platform are you using for that automation?
Okay, so I've got Z-Wave switches on the wall for fixtures, and then I've got hue lights for the lamps that aren't on anything. And with Home Assistant, I'm controlling everything. And I even have for the dining room, family room, living room, where there's overhead lights and hue, I've got sort of a sync automation. So when the fixture goes up and down, the hue lights go too, which is rare because nobody really uses switches in our house because we have a schedule. We're all at home. My wife works from home and, you know, the kids are, you know, in and out a lot. So our lights are on all day. So we have sort of a schedule. And because of it, we don't touch switches, which is really the end game on automation.
Yeah.
I'd probably say that.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's, you know, lighting and switching and those kinds of things was hard for a while. And then I just think we've kind of come into the golden age of it right now, and it's never been easier. It's getting cheaper. You mentioned Philips Hue, and they're probably the most expensive way to do it, but there are a lot of other ways to get it done and get it done well. And I'm with you. We have lights that, you know, the sun goes down and they come on, and the sun comes up and they go off, and we leave them. Nobody ever touches them, and it's pretty great, right? I have studio lights. I use Home Assistant to be able to turn those things on in here in the basement, which is super lazy because I just go, instead of getting up and turning it off. Or
who wants to get up?
Go into the garage, and I have a Amazon motion sensor in there that has an Echo device in there that I can talk to in the garage to turn things on and turn them off.
A door sensor for our entry door off the house into the garage. It's door sensor. Turns on, good to go.
Yeah, I think the only thing I haven't done yet is the mailbox. Like I need to get right.
I know the mail comes every day, and I hate mail, so I don't need another notification. Yeah, like I'm not going to go get the mail. Like I said to my kids to get the mail.
Since I've been home for the pandemic, like I want to know when it's here. Like that's how crazy. That's how I didn't realize the home automation or the Ring, cams I set up would be my only window to the world.
I do that sometimes too. What is it like in the driveway right now?
I know you're like, is it sunny out there? I just want to be outside. But Yeah, I had no idea that my ring cams would be the window, to things. But that is, we put a package box on the porch where we ask UPS and if you got a package, put it in the box that way because nobody was home. Well, we're all home now. Like they, that box, it gets used. They drop it in, and then the assistant says, "Hey, somebody's at the door." Okay, well, I know a box is here, so I go up and get it. We don't even need that. It's kind of changed the way we look at those things. But today I just mounted. I have Android or I have Echo Auto, and that's not what they call it, but it's the Amazon Assistant in your car. And Mike, you've got one of those too, don't you?
I do. Yep. Yeah. It's my main Bluetooth device to the car.
And so it sets up on the dash in little blue light, and you can, and it's like, it's everywhere, right? I mean, you can just do.
A lot of people will say, "Oh my God, it took 2 minutes for your light or 2 seconds for your lights to come on," and like it's not always 2 seconds. There's all these caveats of like why you can complain about it, but also I turned off the basement lights from 2 floors away.
Right.
Don't tell me my remote like setup stuff is bad. Like it's really great. TVs turn on. It takes so long to turn on sometimes these days. I like to queue up a TV on my way to that room.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It takes like 15 to 20 seconds sometimes. Yeah, it's nice. There's a lot of problems with it. And I think that the device and the devices need to get more reliable on Wi-Fi, and the software needs to get more reliable because it's still sort of like gag stuff, but hopefully it'll get there.
So Bust Out on our chat room's got a question, and I'll let you run with this one. He says he has a TiVo with lifetime subscription. For me, they're competing with my TiVo. Do you have any plans for a lifetime pass? I gladly give them a chunk of my money for that.
You got me. Okay, so we do not do lifetime plans. We will never do lifetime plans because lifetime plans are a scam. It's sort of like estimates versus billable hours in certain fields. Somebody's going to get screwed. The person that's billing the hours or the person that is paying for the billable hours. Because, I'm sorry, not billable, but the fixed rate. If it's fixed rate, who knows, right? Either you're going to get overcharged or the person that's doing the work doesn't get enough money because there were accidents that happened in between, right? So the thing about lifetime is lifetime of what? Lifetime of our company, your lifetime of the software. Like it doesn't make any sense to us. We don't understand what lifetime software things are. For us, lifetime software plans are a way to raise money, right? It's a way to say, let's get a bunch of money right now. And then let's get 4 years worth of money from people at once. And we're not in a position that we need that. So we say, pay us monthly, pay us yearly, and we promise that if we go out of business in a year, you're not screwed because you didn't pay for 4 years of lifetime support. And we also won't be mad at you for paying 5 years ago and asking us questions later and not giving us any money, which is where a lot of people sit. TiVo's abandoning their entire business, right? Like they already did lifetimes just on the device, not you. But not only that, like their business, they're abandoning the DVR. So good luck on your lifetime DVR on your last DVR that you bought 3 years ago. It just doesn't add up. It just doesn't add up. So we don't do it. It's not fair for us. It's not fair for our customers. It's not fair for anything.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much where we're at with that.
It's good. It's $8 a month or $80 a year. Is that right?
$8 a month or $80 a year. So basically you get like a 2 month break on the price if you pay yearly. Yeah. And we promise that like you won't pay for more years than we exist.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good, I'm glad you stand on that, right? Whether you agree with it or not. And listeners, you can make that decision whether you like that or not.
I mean, we understand why people want it.
Yeah.
But you also have to understand, like we see a lot of other people defend it in Plex or in TiVo and other things. And the defense is true. They're not treated that well. Like their support isn't done that well. And because it's hard to say, let me help this customer that paid me once 5 years ago. that hasn't paid me since. Like it's you can't expect a business to do that. We don't think so. So we just don't do it. Instead, we just, you could pay us while it's working, and we promise that we'll be there for support really, really, really fast.
I think I see the play on deals. They're always, $34.99 or whatever for those lifetime, get in. There was a Plex ran that run for a long time. They had, I think, a $79 deal out there. So anyways, appreciate that question. Bust down, and thanks for.
It's a good one. We get it a lot.
Yeah, I bet you do. And especially in this community, because there have been others that have gone that route for sure. Absolutely. Right. That's been super common. John, we won't hold you any longer. Thanks for coming around. Hey, if I ask you to come back again and hang out with us, maybe around, 6 months, 8 months, or a release of some kind.
This is fun. Absolutely. I love talking about this.
You want to. That'd be great.
Maybe I can talk about my beach house. So we're remodeling a house, and I'll send you a picture later what my background used to look like, but it looked like a criminal in Brooklyn or something that was fencing things out of his house, because the house has no walls on it right now, but I'm so afraid of things not being available right now. And so I have a bunch of stuff in my house. I wonder if I can oh, look, see,
there it all is. Just out of frame. There you go.
I had to move all of it before we recorded.
Nicely done.
I enjoy all this stuff. I've used it. I've got a lot of opinions on it.
So I'd love to. Well, we love to have repeat guests who can come back, once a year or whatever, and just kind of give us updates. And so listen, I'm not getting rid of channels, and at least not now, because it's working and it seems to be working well. So appreciate the hard work on that. I'm still amazed that it's just 3 of you that are doing this and doing it pretty well.
It's hard work.
Yeah.
But it's fun. And my dream job. Like I said, I did this for a hobby forever and was able to go full time to do this, and, and be self-employed to do and write software. It's really fun. And anybody out there, if you have any questions, write into support. If you join our community, read around, post anything you want. Everybody's really nice on it.
Good.
That's another thing. Like, we probably wouldn't even care about a community if it wasn't for that. People are really nice. And I think that it's one of those things. I come from the Ruby community and the Ruby programming language. And there's an old saying that says, Mats is nice, so we're nice. And Mats is the guy that started Ruby. And I think it helps. Like, we're there, we're part of it. We're trying to help. We don't try to argue. Nobody else argues. And so join the community, check it out. If you have any questions, we'll help you out.
On the pre-show, I asked you a question about, I'm having a little issue with the NVIDIA Shield, and you were like, just jump in the community. And so when we're done tonight, I'll pop in the community. And
either somebody else will answer it, or will answer it, or a combination of the two. But for us, they're sort of like tickets. We have real support. If you email support@getchannels.com, and we like to do that for certain things. But for the community, people are helping each other, so it's really great. We try to remember that the community is the community and not as much of a support channel as it is. Right. But we're just so involved that, like, it is a support channel.
And I imagine
we want to be part of the community, not just the makers.
I imagine you guys see things that happen in the community that then get escalated into support, right? When those kinds of things need to be.
Sometimes it's a better channel for that than a thread, because you'll just muddy up a thread and it's like a very unique problem or something. But if it's not a unique problem, we want it on community so people can find it. Yeah.
Right. Get some self-service that way. Right on. John, thanks for jumping in tonight. Appreciate it. We'll let you go, and we'll hope to see you back here. Absolutely. Sometime soon. We'll be following what you're doing. Thanks for jumping in. Appreciate it.
Nice to meet you, John.
Absolutely. All right, you as well. Bye, guys.
Care. You bet. Take care. A couple reminders on the way out. Just stuff we don't want to keep John around for. You can just close out your browser, John, and it'll shut you.
Oh, okay. I was looking for it. Where's the exit call button?
There's a Leaf Studio right down there too. At the
Leaf meeting. All right. Bye, guys. Thanks.
Take care. Thanks, John. Thanks. Just a couple reminders on the way out. Mike, are you already watching TV on channel?
Yeah. Well, I need to start my subscription. I waited. I wasn't going to go that far down the road, but it's up and running. I have the full dashboard up here. Super easy.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty drop dead simple. And if you've got HD home runs, it's even easier. Like I couldn't believe how easy. I didn't even believe it the first time I set it up. I was like, did it get them? I had to go back and check all the channels. I'm like, because it was almost instant. Like it was just like boom, they're there. And Plex always took some time. So cool. You'll have to report back next week on how things are going there.
So, I will, especially for, recording TV and watching live TV. Obviously, my perspective will be a little bit different even than yours because I'm coming from Plex, but also coming from YouTube TV. But there are a lot of times where I will watch stuff off of Plex if it's local OTA because I don't want to use up data, right? I don't want to be pulling a bunch of data down. Like if we're watching football all day and it's on Fox and CBS and like that. So there's use cases where I'm definitely pulling live TV from there. Otherwise, we DVR it on Plex. Mainly, we use Plex to DVR all of our local channels because you can remove commercials, right? YouTube TV, you can't. So we love the no commercial aspect. So that's what I'm going to test this against is live TV against YouTube TV, DVR against Plex, and kind of see how it works. Give it a shot for the next 30 days.
Yeah, I think it's a good, just try it for yourself,
Yeah.
So super cool. Okay, a couple reminders on the way out. One is big thanks to our Patreon subscribers again who do that. The guys who kind of support what we're doing here. Appreciate your support of the show. Allows us to keep doing the things that we do. If you want to join us, John says they have a great community. We'll see in channels. We know the best community is our Discord group. So if you head out to theaverageguy.tv/Discord, if you want to join us there, you can get that done as well. No messages from you, and we'd love to hear them. So if you got a funny message, a 30-second comment, question, contribution of some kind, go to homegadgetgeeks.com. There's a mic in the bottom right-hand corner. Click it and leave us a message. We'd love
not
to
me,
hear
Mike. I'm not in the bottom right-hand corner, but there is a mic. It's just not the mic.
I put you in my bottom right-hand corner.
Oh, okay. So there we go. I like it. It's just my little face, huh?
Let's just be really clear about that. You can contact the show, send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv. Find us both on Twitter if you want to do that, although we're way more active in the Discord group, but at Jay Collison, and he is at Wieger Tech. And of course, the AverageGuy.tv platform powered by Maple Grove Partners. Get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and you trust. Of course, you know that's Christian. And been trying to get him hooked up with the Cyber Frontiers, and we're just missing on the schedule. We'll get that done here shortly. Maple Grove Partners gets that done. Mike, anything else that I'm forgetting on this? How's your crypto doing?
I don't have any right now.
No, sorry. Was that too early? Was that
too early? Because you know what happened? I got in and out again.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
Made money. Not as much as I could have.
That's good. So, that's good. Yeah. Well, the best thing I ever did was not do anything. So if you want to join us out there, again, don't just remember theaverageguy.tv/Coinbase if you want to jump in. Mike, I'll be honest. The affiliate marketing stuff that I do on the show, it's never really done very well. Like I never HelloFresh, almost nothing. Hover, nothing. Every time I've done that hasn't been the case with Coinbase.
Awesome.
So yeah, no, it's been good. And again, what I love about it is it gives you an opportunity to try it and learn it.
Exactly.
And not have to put any money in. Like you can get started with they'll give you $10 to get it started. So get it done if you want to do that. Theaverageguy.tv/Coinbase. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern. A big thanks to Jon Maddox join us tonight for this. Hopefully you found that helpful. And by the way, they're Get channels on Twitter if you want to follow them out there. And
it's also their website, getchannels.com.
Yeah, if you want to get that going, give it a try for 30 days. Who knows? You can always.
Yeah, that's my plan. Try it out for the free 30 days and then
give it a shot. I think we have Jay. Jay is next week. Jay Matheson is back next week, and then Dwayne Johnson's behind him. So we got a couple guests that are coming up and working on a few more. Thanks for coming out tonight. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.